Mzansi's MMA show is back. Last time we bet for the first time on UFC 259, and as promised, we are going to review those bets. For those of you joining us for the first time, Mzansi's MMA show is the show where two South African comedians give you the African perspective on all things MMA. And when I say all, I mean the things we are aware of and are prepared to bet on. Speaking of betting, as always, I'm joined by the one and only Prince. And let me start by asking, how did your bets on UFC 259 go?
There were three fights that I betted on. I betted on Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz. I betted on Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. And I betted on Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. Originally, I said I put 100 rand on each of them, but since it was my first time, my confidence was still a bit shaky, so I put 50 rand on each of them. Good news is that Jan Blachowicz actually won his fight, and he was an underdog in that fight, so I actually made quite a lot of money off that one. I think I put in 50 rand, I got back like 130 rand. The Amanda Nunes fight, she was a favorite already, so when I put in 50 rand, I didn't get too much back. I think I got maybe 60 or 62 rand back or something like that from a 50. And then I was going to get money for Peter Yan, and unfortunately through what is known as an illegal knee, therefore sinking my 50 rand. But regardless of that, I still made a profit from it. I think I put in total 150 rand and I got back about 180 rand. So yeah, I think as far as betting accuracy, I'd say I'm off to a good start. How did your betting go?
So I initially wanted to put 50 on Amanda Nunes and 50 on Jan Blachowicz. Then at the last minute, I changed that and I actually put 50 rand on Aljamain Sterling. So never in my life have I been more grateful for the art of acting. So I just want to thank the Academy and thank Aljamain Sterling for a fantastic performance. Acting way hurter than he was. He was doing that that chicken walk thing where he's getting up.
The advertising.
And the guy put the stool there for him, and he's like. So I was very grateful for that.
This guy, and they took him out of the octagon, and they were like, "Yo, man, we need to take you to the hospital." And he's like, "No, I want to do the interview." He's like, "What the hell?
I still want the glory. Dying. I still want the glory. I'm dying."
He upset me so much, bro. I think the next time they fight, Jan should just proper whoop his ass. I'm tired of this guy. Why is he out here acting a damn fool?
I'm not gonna bet on him again, but I'd say the beginning of the fight was turning out how I thought it would. It looked like Aljamain was actually giving him Peter Yan a hard time, but in fairness to Peter, he came back really good.
Yeah, wait. Peter Yan was very composed. So throughout the whole fight, Sterling was trying to push a pace. I think he was trying to push a pace that he's not even used to, which I mean, you can't force the issue sometimes, you know what I'm saying? I know it's your game plan and so forth, but there was a pace that he couldn't hold for 5 rounds. And I think Jan knew that. He kind of covered up, had his defense up, had his guard up, took all of Aljamain's weak shots, because at some point those shots had no power in them anymore. They were literally touching for points. They were just touching for judges' opinions. And Jan was starting to land with some serious malice. You're starting to land with some malice. And I think by the time that knee hit, Aljamain kind of already knew that this title shot was slipping away. And I think he was hoping that the fight would be a DQ, a disqualification, or not a DQ, a no contest, just to get the rematch. But then they gave him the belt, and then the whole situation looked really embarrassing, because no champion has ever won a belt the same way you win an Oscar. So yeah, that's no way to get your gold, is all I'm trying to say. Weird enough, I also then did an extra bet on Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad, and once again, to my detriment, there was an eye poke by Leon Edwards. This time I didn't lose my money, because this time the fight was ruled a no contest, meaning that everyone's money was then reimbursed. So I put 100 rand in, and obviously they gave me my 100 rand back. In latest matters, I put another 100 rand on Kevin Holland versus Derek Brunson. Unfortunately, this time I lost that 100 rand. So sad. But the thing was, Kevin Holland came out very playful, joking, so forth. And Brunson took it very seriously, scored his points, got the wrestling, got in the judges' favor, won the fight. Kevin Arnold looked like the more dangerous fighter throughout. I think his playfulness, I don't think you can substitute playfulness for work rate. Me and you have spoken many times about most of the best fighters in the UFC have a high work rate. I'm talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov, high work rate. I'm talking about Kamaru Usman, high work rate. I'm talking about even if you go back to your Tony Ferguson's high work rate, your Max Holloway high work rate. And oftentimes you don't even have to be the better fighter. You can just have a higher work rate than your opponent. And chances are, if the fight goes the full distance, the judges will score it in your favor. I think it's the same thing Aljamain Sterling was trying to do against Jan. He was trying to do a higher work rate. Unfortunately, if you're going to do a high work rate, you can't gas out or get tired or anything of the sort.
And the wrestling base is a huge factor in MMA. So we've seen Kevin Holland be pretty effective off his back, but Brunson was doing enough to negate that.
Yeah.
So he was getting nice takedowns and he was controlling him well off the floor. So that, and Kevin was out there playing games, really, to be honest. He wasn't, he was, I mean, that jokey stuff is good, but at some point you got to knock that off and realize that, okay, I'm not winning the fight. So it's time for me to stop using my mouth and start using my other tools like my limbs. So
my brain.
So
you've got to kind of tap into fight IQ at some point, isn't it? At some point you put your mind games or trash talk, as it were. You got to then put that aside. I mean, even Conor McGregor knows when to turn off the trash talk and the mind games and actually just focus on my fight IQ. If you are on bottom, all you've got to be thinking is, how do I get myself up off the floor? How do I get myself to the cage? How do I walk myself to the cage, walk myself up the cage, get off, land some shots, and show the judges that I'm still in the fight?
That's the thing. Unless Kevin is just one of those guys, that's how he is. Who am I to tell the guy to change his whole personality? I'm just saying that hopefully he can take these lessons and realize that, Brunson is a more seasoned fighter, and we've seen this time and time again where young up-and-comers or people that are on a tear and are flashy and things like that get derailed by fighters that have more octagon yards and they know how to work a game plan, a good wrestling game plan, which is exactly what Brunson did. And in fairness to Kevin, he did actually get a takedown later on in the thing, but it was too little too late. Kevin is an amazing athlete, I'll give him that. But Brunson was just a more seasoned guy. And we saw these things. One that stands out to me is Johnny Walker. He got derailed by a more experienced guy. Even Brian Ortega that was a different fight. Max used his striking to outlast Brian, but and we keep talking about Yair Rodriguez and Frankie Edgar. So it reminded me of those kind of fights,
Yeah, and the weirdest thing is, you say that Kevin got the takedown. The moment he got the takedown, he spent the first few seconds of the takedown talking to Khabib, saying, I got the takedown. I took him down. I told you guys I'm gonna take him down. Now I took him down, man. I'm the man. I'm the man. And those are a few seconds where your opponent is still a bit disorientated because you just landed him on the ground. It's the perfect time to try and posture up, try and get position, try and get your elbows in, try and get your hits in. Instead, he spent that time trying to flex to Dana White and flex to the MMA community. He reminds me of a comedian who performs for the pleasure and joy of other comedians when there's an audience present. Do you know what I'm saying? Perform for the audience, but no, not like you. There's a few guys who perform for the comedian. I'm like, I'm not gonna pay you. I'm not even gonna buy you a drink. Perform for the audience. This is not for me. And I think that's what Kevin was doing. He was trying to impress his peers, trying to press Dana White, trying to press. When in actual fact, there are judges watching the fight who need more of your impressing. Yeah,
well, that's the thing. You came here to fight, not to talk about fighting. So
Unless you talk trash to the judges, unless you're like, you see that, judges? You see that? I took him down. Score that. 10-9. You know what I mean? Unless you do that.
It's
But
almost
no one
like
ever does
it's almost
that.
like he was using that fight to hang out with Khabib and Dana White.
It was the only way you could hang out with them. They're like, you hang out with us. You in the octagon, we'll be outside. We can.
We
talk.
have
He's
to
like,
be
yeah,
here. Yeah. It's not like they can leave the table or whatever at the club.
It's awkward. It's like an awkward situation. It's like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
He's out here running his mouth. Yeah. You're like that. You're like, damn, he's our waiter.
Yeah. We'd like to order our food now.
But I can't leave. He's our waiter. What are you gonna do? You have to talk to him. So out here talking crap.
What are your bets for 260?
Okay, line it up. What do we have there?
So, unfortunately, the co-main has been, well, somebody pulled out. Oh, Volkanovski can't fight anymore.
Volkanovski.
Yeah.
COVID got him.
Yeah. So that is on hold for later. So I personally am just going to bet on Miocic. Obviously I do want, as a proud African, I do want Ngannou to win. That's my heart speaking. But for the sake of my wallet and my brain, I do think that Miocic is a more strategic fighter, and I can't see it playing out any different to the last fight. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, what's crazy is previously when Stipe and Ngannou fought the first time, Ngannou was a big favorite going into that fight. I actually stuck to my guns, and I said that Stipe was going to win that fight. It was always going to be difficult, it was going to be tough, but Stipe actually did pull through and won that fight. So just to let everyone know, I actually did root for Stipe in the first one. This time, I'm changing my mind. Even though I was right that first time, this time I'm going with Francis Ngannou. Reason being, I felt like the first time Ngannou fought like rather immature, inexperienced, kind of childish. I think it was his first time being in that big media hype. Remember that media hype is a real thing, especially if it's your first time. I remember Dana White coming out doing promos, talking about Francis's punch is so powerful. It's the equivalent of a Ford Fiesta or something crazy like that, driving over your arm or hitting you at 180 kilometers per hour. All these things just to hype Francis up. Is this badass knockout guy who just knocked out Alistair Overeem. He just knocked out this guy. That, and I think Ngannou himself bought into this hype. Even in the press conference leading up, Ngannou just kept saying, I'm just going to chase him. I'm going to chase him, and I'm going to catch him with one. And when I catch him, the fight's going to be over.
Sunglasses and everything, as far as I remember.
He's wearing sunglasses. He's waiting.
As soon as you're wearing sunglasses and you're not Conor McGregor,
or Tony Ferguson, I'm like, what are you doing, fool? So I think Francis bought into this whole hype of I'll chase him and I'll catch him, which is a terrible game plan for anyone to be like, I'm going to chase him and I'm going to catch him. That's a horrible game plan, man. Especially you're supposed to set things up. Do you know what I'm saying? Even in comedy, there's setups and there's punchlines. You don't just say, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to punchline and punchline and punch. No, at some point, setups have to take place.
Vaginas.
Transsexuals, transgenders, ANC, DA, black, white, colors,
coronavirus,
weed, coronavirus. Am I right? It doesn't just, you don't just jump right into it. There's setups that take place, and I feel like Ngannou thought that he was gonna go out there and just run over Stipe like Stipe is Alistair Overeem, which he definitely is not. He's the greatest heavyweight of all time. Do you know what I'm saying?
This is unfortunately why I can't get behind Ngannou for this, because just looking at his last fights, even against Rosenstrike, that was just like a straight up power versus power bout. You know what I'm saying? They both came out. They both came at each other like marauding bulls, and it just so happened that Ngannou caught the thing. I'm not saying he's not a great athlete. I'm not saying that he hasn't got superb power. I just don't think strategically, unfortunately, I don't think he's there.
So for me, it's a few minor adjustments. The thing is, Ngannou, as inexperienced as he was, still went 5 rounds with the heavyweight world champion. Still lasted throughout the whole 5 rounds, survived all the takedowns, survived the big hits where other fighters would have failed. All Stipe's takedowns were not easy. Many times he had to really push his body hard on Ngannou, almost trekking right across the cage before Ngannou finally fell over. I feel like Ngannou, a few minor adjustments. Minor adjustment number one, don't come out swinging. He's training with Kamaru Usman. Usman is in his corner. How about the jab this time? How about the jab? Get the distance on Francis. Get the timing on the big shots. Get the timing on the big shots. Remember, if one of those big shots land, it's over. I don't care who you are, like Stipe Miocic. I don't care if you're Cain Velasquez. I don't care if you're Alistair Overeem. I don't care if you're Jose Rosenstruck. No matter who you are, if one of those big ones land, especially if it's a 1-2, like it's a wrap for you. So all Ngannou has to do is not be a wild gorilla and just come out trying to pound. No, this time add some patience to it. It is a 5-round fight, then you need your gas tank. Second of all, how about a little bit of takedown defense? Simple things, a little bit of takedown defense. Where do I push my hips? How do I get myself on the cage? If you get half the amount of takedowns that Stipe did last time, say for instance, last time Stipe did 6 takedowns, how about this time we try and just make it 3? All that extra time on the feet for Ngannou is just a long time for Stipe to try and run away from a potential big shot, which is almost inevitable to happen. Do you know what I'm saying? So this is what I think Ngannou has to do from his side. From Stipe's side, listen, Stipe's gotten older. It's been a couple of years since that fight. I don't know if it's 3 years since that fight. Ngannou's just gotten younger and better. Stipe has fought 3 wars with DC. In the first one against DC, he got knocked out, and many people say that he got knocked out by DC in that fight because of the damage he took from the Ngannou fight. So that already tells you how that first fight fared. If you go look at the first fight, Ngannou actually did land a couple on Stipe. Props to Stipe because he took those shots and just continued plodding ahead with his wrestling. So I think a few minor adjustments from Ngannou, and I think he can get this one.
Yeah, it's difficult to say. I personally feel that the Cormier fight was a pure out strategy. Cormier's corner did the old classic watching the tape. They saw something in his defense. I believe it was something in the clinch where every time some move happened, he would leave himself open, and you'd see Cormier caught that, and he timed it perfect. I believe it was like a close hook or something like that. So I don't think I felt Stipe was fine during the Ngannou fight. Honestly, I mean, he covered up perfectly. He worked a great game plan, and Ngannou did come at him with a lot of things, but he was covered up. He moved away. He didn't allow Ngannou to catch him against the fence. And, like we all saw, Ngannou basically gassed himself out. And from there, Stipe...
In the first round.
Yeah. But look,
I think after the first round, he was out.
Yeah, I'll take your points. I'll take your points that Ngannou's could be a little bit more composed this time. The hype thing might have, the hype thing might not be a factor, and the fact that he's training with some top guys like Usman, who we know is a really great strategist. So all these things are definitely going to count in his favor.
The Usman factor is a big one, eh? I mean, that helps a lot.
It's a heavyweight fight. Anything could happen. When you get guys with such power, it's a case of if Stipe zigs when he should have zagged, it could all be over. But as far as
you dot the wrong eye.
I'm still going to go with Stipe, just because this is Stipe is like a grandmaster at chess, if you want to me, you know what I'm saying? So let's look at some of the other fights. I personally am not going to bet on anyone else, though I do see Tyrone Woodley's fighting, so I wouldn't mind betting against him.
The crazy part is I actually want to bet on T Wood for this fight, only because I don't see him I don't see someone like who's been a champion before going on like a complete and utter losing streak, like just one after the other. At some point, he has to recover, isn't it? At some point, you're like, okay, cool. I was going through a depressing stage. I'm back now. But Vicente Luque is a beast in the ground and pound. He has some of the most vicious fight-ending ground and pound. And I feel like if he can get Woodley on the ground and he can get himself in a dominant position, he has just go check his fight highlights of how he finished his fights. It's like separating you from your senses kind of ground and pound from Vicente Luque. That being said, I think if T Wood can land a bomb, which against the less experienced fighters like Vicente, who is experienced but not championship experienced, I feel like one of those big bombs lands the same way he landed on Robbie Lawler. It's once again Ngannou style. It's a wrap.
That one cross that Tyrone Woodley got the championship from and then maintained it.
And the thing is, he possesses it. Woodley possesses the ability to knock someone out. What Woodley struggles with is the wrestling. The moment a guy approaches him, like Kamaru Usman did, like Gilbert Burns did, the moment you approach him with the wrestling, he's lazy. He's a bit of a lazy fighter. He doesn't like what they call the grind.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the grind. So the moment you put him on the cage, the moment you put him on the floor, he doesn't work to get back up to his feet. He chills on the floor, and you can pretty much take the round. It's your round. Yeah. If you get him down, it's your round.
Yeah. Even in his last fight against Covington, his shoulder got hurt or something. And I think GSP fought through a broken nose against BJ Penn.
Yeah.
He fought through, I think he broke his hand on someone. And so if you were to compare like a champion versus Tyrone Woodley ain't a champion. I disagree. I think that if you're on a losing streak, things don't get rosier for the most part. I think generally if you're on a losing point, things just get darker. It doesn't matter what shade of glasses you put on, how rose-tinted your glasses are. Life does tend to get a bit darker. And Tyrone is all over the place, with his rapping. And I'm surprised he even needs the money or something. But this guy's.
I'm surprised Dana White.
Yeah, because they're not good. They're not. I've never seen Dana White give glowing reports of Tyrone Woodley.
He hates him. Like he's always like, I fucking hate this guy. This guy that is wasting our damn time out here dancing for 2 fights against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That doesn't do a damn thing. He's just bad. He's just bad.
I can't forgive him. I can't forgive him for that. For those 2 fights alone. I'm starting to forgive Wonderboy because he's changed his shit, but I'll never forgive Woodley for that. As the champ, if you're the champ, especially if you're a new champ, like Anderson Silva, at least when he was the champ,
entertain us.
Yeah, he did. At least 4 fights after he became the champ, he put on some really good, stellar performances. And even after he did some dancing around things, he came back and he front kicked Vitor Belfort. But Woodley, as soon as he became the champ off that one lucky cross,
snooze fest. Dude, if you want to put it into perspective, look at the champion in the welterweight before Woodley and look at the champion after Woodley. The champion before Woodley was ruthless Robbie Lawler, who fought wars against Rory McDonald. He fought wars against who's the other dude? Carlos Condit. He fought wars against guys, man. It was classic fights that till this day you can go back and watch and you can appreciate. You know what I'm saying? Look at the champion after Woodley, Kamaru Usman. Has Usman not given us everything that we could ever desire? Absolutely. I mean, he whooped Kofi Covington in one of the most classic fights of all time.
Everyone that cared about sort of like human rights got that.
And a Nigerian came and whooped him like he was drunk in a party and the bouncer was whooping his ass. It was like Covington went to the club, made racist comments, and then the Nigerian bouncer came and whooped his ass.
Oh, I can't wait to see.
That's literally what happened.
I don't think Covington's going to face him again.
It's a tough one.
He wants, but
yeah.
if I was Covington, I would bow out of that.
Tyron Woodley, that's a no from him. However, as far as my bet goes, I would like to take a little bit of extra time just to look into the situation a little bit deeper. Speaking of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Vicente Luque has actually been on a tear. He's been knocking people out left, right, and center with that vicious ground and pound, but came up against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and this is where Wonderboy kind of got my respect back because he handled him. He did those karate kicks. He was very aggressive.
That
he had
was
the
a good
side
fight,
crunch kick,
yeah,
front karate kick. He handled Vicente Luque, and I kind of respected him again to be like, well, props, bro. So now the only thing is that plays in my mind to be like, if Wonderboy took care of Vicente, maybe Woodley, who matched Wonderboy, can handle Vicente.
Did he
but
match
then
him though, or did he just almost put him to sleep with inactivity?
Yeah,
that was such a tough fight to call because nothing happened. I think even Ngannou versus who was it? Ngannou versus
Derek Lewis.
I think even that
No, that was bad, coach. No, coach, that was bad. Ngannou versus Derek Lewis was horrible.
Was one of the worst fights ever.
So they slow and they posturing for 5. Was it 5 rounds or 3? It was horrible.
That was like like one of those bar fights with oh fuck you up, no fuck you up, hold me back. No one's holding them back. Everyone's drinking.
And the DJ had to stop the music for this and just wasted 3 Amapiano songs for nothing. The bouncer can't even kick you out the club because you did nothing. Like they didn't fight, it was verbal. They had just verbal jabs. It was just a roast.
That was that. Yeah. With this whole betting thing, even though as entertainers we're always supposed to say that we've got plenty of disposable income, I don't.
Times are tough.
So I'm going to just do the safe thing, put $50 on Stipe for this round, and just enjoy the rest of the fight. And just
I think I'll do. Look, so in my betting account currently I have about $80. I'm not adding to it, and I'm not taking from it. Whatever I have in there is what I'm using. So I think I'll split my money between Stipe, Sugar Shane O'Malley, and I'm still deciding on whether I should give Tyron Woodley benefit of the doubt, even though I know he might disappoint me. No, not might, probably will. And disappoint his family and his child, and disappoint his work colleagues, his school friends. He's just a disappointment for me.
However many rap fans
he's rap fans.
He's gonna have to write a rap about I got fucked up again.
That'll be a dope song.
It would be. I'd like to see the song where he retires from fighting, though. Personally, that would be the one song that I'll listen to. Just to be like, you put it in the song, please don't ever come back and fight.
Yeah, it's permanent. It's permanent. Young money till the death of me. It's permanent. You ain't going nowhere till you die. So cool.
All right.
Sweet.
That's the show.